ProArgi-9 Plus is the highest quality L-arginine supplement in the world. A person can take ProArgi-9 Plus to the doctor and say, hey, doc, can you look this up? And there it will be in the physician's desk reference. It's updated annually. It helps physicians with legally mandated information relevant to writing prescriptions. It's widely available in libraries and bookstores. And you can go online. Go to pdr.net, type in ProArgi-9, and you'll get exactly on the screen what the doctor has on his desk. Pretty cool. This one is a game changer. Most nutritional companies do not do clinicals. Well, this company does. In 2009, the High Desert Heart Institute did a landmark study on ProArgi. Let's take a look. The subjects. All right, now take a look here. You're going to get a look at the average age was 68 years old, and there were 33 patients. And look at the things that they were suffering from. All right, we're talking folks that had some serious health-related challenges, okay? So these folks were given a 90-day protocol of ProArgi-9, okay? And each patient was given 10 grams in the morning, 10 grams at night, and this lasted for, like I said, 90 days, and these were some of the tests done, okay? Now take a look. The results. Dr. Cici. Dr. Cici, again, this is not Synergy's doctor. This was a health, the Heart Health Institute doctor. He said he expected a marginal improvement in the symptoms. And what we ended up seeing was remarkable. Positive remodeling of the heart. Positive pulmonary artery changes and pulmonary vascular changes. That's pretty wild. Take a look. These were just some. There were 37 key medical markers that were improved in the blood for 32 of the 33 patients. One patient checked out 2 months in, didn't like the stomach, just had loose stool, so she decided to leave. So 32 people stayed on, and look at the numbers. The results obtained were over and above those of maximum pharmacological and medical management, according to Dr. Silva. Just amazing. Second to none. It's the most comprehensive human clinical study ever conducted on a nutritional supplement. I'm going to say it again. The most comprehensive. Not the second most, third most, fourth most. The most.
You know, Angelo, we know that you were one of the participants in the High Desert Heart Institute study that had 35 initial participants. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved in that study. In fact, maybe let's even go back a little bit and tell us a little bit about your health condition that led you to seek out the help of Dr. Cici and the High Desert Heart Institute.
Well, ever since I come up here, I've had heart problems, primarily starting out with atrial fibrillation, and then ultimately I required a pacemaker to be put in. What happened is in December, actually December 20th to be specific, of 2008, I had a renal failure, congestive heart failure, and pacemaker failure concurrently. And it necessitated my being sent to the hospital. Paramedics came, and I went into the hospital, and they ultimately decided they were going to have to do surgery, and it was supposed to be very dangerous because because of my atrial fibrillation, I'd been taking blood thinner, so taking and doing surgery at that time was going to be very dangerous. They told my wife to make that decision for me because I wasn't able to do it at the time. I was really out. And she did. She thought, after listening to everything, the best thing for me to do is go ahead and try the surgery, which they did. And that went successful. The surgery was fine. After I got out of the hospital, for the next 5 to 6 weeks, I was in the hospital about 2 to 3 days minimum every week as a result of congestive heart failure. It basically was the real primary reason, is that nothing was happening. I had been taking all the medications possible. I was medically managed to the maximum extent, and finally I gave up. Quite honestly, I'd had enough. I got weak. I was on oxygen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I couldn't walk 15 feet without stopping. I couldn't even open up a bottle of water. My wife used to have to open the bottles of water for me. I was very concerned also with medical costs, and I was concerned that I didn't know what these bills were going to be because I hadn't received them yet, but I didn't want to empty the well out, so to speak, and I didn't want any good money spent after bad, if you will. So I decided to take myself out of the hospital. I asked them to remove all the IVs, and they told me that if I went home I would die. And I said, just give me the papers I need, and I'll go home. Because if I'm going to die, that's where I want to be anyway. Coincidentally, that was on a Sunday, and I had a pre-scheduled appointment with the congestive heart failure clinic on Monday. I went there, and Dan Austin, who is the clinical director there, and Dr. Siva recommended that I go on a study of a product called ProArgi-9, which is a dietary supplement. Well, I was just a little bit set back that they'd been doing everything they could. I felt, what are you going to do with a dietary supplement? And in all truthfulness, I didn't really think it was going to work, but they also told me they were going to do a tremendous amount of testing. Well, the testing really hit me because they said it was going to be free, and so I could see that the medical bills were not going to be rising, and so consequently I went ahead and said, let's do it, because I was more interested in seeing what was going to be happening to me, whether I had a week to live or 7 days or 2 days. I was expecting things to go down, and I wanted to have access to all of that information. In a few short weeks, I began to actually feel better. I wasn't sure at that time whether I was feeling better or I was thinking I was feeling better. But actually I was feeling better. By the end of 3 months, I felt really pretty good. By the end of the 3rd month, I was doing things that I hadn't been able to do for years. My wife is the one who told me that she believed that I had more energy than I ever had in my life. And I really thought that maybe she should go on ProArgi-9 too, because I think she forgot our honeymoon, because I knew I had more energy then.
Tell us a little bit more about some of the other people you associated with in the study. How serious were these people who were involved in the study, and were they handpicked because of certain situations, or were they all pretty much in a similar situation as you were?
Well, they were handpicked, but they were handpicked on the basis of they picked the worst people. There were 33 that I know of out of the 35 that were what I'm going to refer to as, my term is nearly deads, okay, including me. And I got to meet the greater majority of them while we were there. And I could see that they were getting well in talking with them, because I actually spent about 4 to 5 hours at the clinic once or twice a week getting all these tests done. And we've had people who were at the clinic who had legs that they were told by their own doctor to have it amputated. They did not have it amputated because they didn't want to, but after taking this study, not for the leg, but for the congestive heart failure, that leg is ended up looking great. It's good and doesn't require amputation. That's on one person. Another person was in there taking magnesium. They were there 3 times a week with getting IVs for magnesium because they couldn't get their magnesium level to the minimum required. They also had heart problems, but they were in there for this reason. The first thing they happened to notice was that the magnesium count was increasing. By the end of the 3 months, they were not using hardly any of the magnesium. The magnesium level had gotten back into the normal range, and the person was taking magnesium tablets as well as IV medication direct. and there's no magnesium in the product. That's the interest.
What was the attitude among the clinical participants as the weeks unfolded and they actually started feeling better and, like yourself, actually trying to grasp to a glimmer of hope that had not existed when you started the study?
Well, they were all really pleased. I mean, especially we had one gentleman that was there. He was taking nitroglycerin tablets, an average of about 16 per day for the angina, I think it's called. And at the end of the study, he was only taking one. So, and he's still on it. I've not had an opportunity to talk to him since, but, you know, the angina pains went down substantially. I could just go on, but the attitude of the people was great. I mean, they were all feeling good. The interesting thing is at the end of 90 days, which was the length of the study, most of them went off of it. They kept 10 of us on. I happened to be one of the 10 who was one of the worst cases for an additional 90-day study with a reduced amount of the ProArgi-9. And the other people who were on it, after several weeks, had to come back to the doctor because they weren't feeling very well, and they noticed that they believed it was because they needed something else, and the doctor told them, you really need to get back on your ProArgi-9. So, but everybody felt good. It was great to go there and see the people being tested and feeling more positive about life. It was terrific.
What advice would you have for others in your situation who may have physicians or caregivers that are telling them that really there's no hope or there's nothing they can do? I mean, that they aren't aware of the Nobel Prize research. They're not aware of things like this High Desert Institute. What would you say to, say, a corporate friend or somebody that you've known throughout the country who says, oh, I need to talk to my cardiologist, and he says that he doesn't think there's anything that can help me? What would be your advice to someone like that at this point in their life?
Well, actually that has happened many times as I've gone to tell a lot of people about it. There's many people who have come to me and asked me how I got well because they knew I was ready to die. In fact, I have several friends who never even came to see me anymore because they didn't want to see me get worse. So basically what I've told people is that, hey, this worked for me. I've read everything. I've researched it. They know me. I do an extensive research on everything that I do. And a lot of them trusted my judgment. And once they trusted my judgment to get on it, they went on it and they found out from themselves, and they were telling other people about it and coming back to me. I mean, it's just been great to hear.
You mentioned that you could only walk a certain number of feet and that you had oxygen essentially 24 hours a day. You virtually were totally immobilized, almost chronically disabled, so to speak. How does that compare with your life now, 6 months later?
There is no comparison. To be specific, I've been monitoring my blood tests, and I guess it is the engineer in me. Since 1995, I've got the records. I've monitored them longer. But I was checking my tests each week and comparing it with all the records I had. And over the years, I had many different tests that were above normal or below normal. Well, what I noticed after the 90-day study, that everything was back in the normal range, which it hadn't been for a long time. My triglycerides were down. My cholesterol was down. Everything was back into the normal range. Oxygen, I no longer use oxygen. It was about 3 months afterwards that I stopped using it. I didn't need it. As far as kidneys, my kidneys are something else, went all the way back to normal. I just had the test here, and my kidneys are at 0.9 for the creatinine, and supposedly that's very good because I think around 0.7 is supposed to be like a teenager. So my kidneys went back to normal, and I was expected to be on dialysis as a minimum and a kidney transplant. So they've gone back to normal. Asthma, I have asthma. You wouldn't know that I have it. I have no shortness of breath. I can walk further. I mean, it's unbelievable. I don't get any shortness of breath in walking.
As you think about the fact that 700 to 900,000 people die annually in the United States of heart disease, and people aren't aware of this message, this research, this product, what does that do to you? How do you feel about that?
I don't feel very good. I feel good in the sense that I'm spending a lot of time and a lot of effort in trying to make this known to everybody. I just wish it had been known here a year or so ago, because my brother died from congestive heart failure. My mother died from congestive heart failure. Many of my friends have died. I'm just trying to save them one life at a time, if you will, and I've been fortunate that to date I know of one life I have saved, and there are many others that I'm working on. They're working on as well. It's just I really want to spend a lot of time, and I intend to go around and speak to many people on the subject, because I want them to be aware that it's there. Because I'm not sure, actually I am sure, most doctors will not let them know it's available, okay? Because a lot of the people who have taken the information I provided them to their doctors have basically said, you don't need to take that, you're okay, you know.